Good evening. This is the one meeting a year in which the superintendent opens the meeting because of the reorganization of the school committee roles. So I'd like to open the meeting of the Thursday, August 22nd, 2024, Medfield School Committee meeting. Before we do a roll call, I'd like to entertain a motion for a chair.
I nominate Michelle Kirkby.
Any other nominations for chair? Do I have a second for Michelle Kirkby?
I second Michelle Kirkby.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, we should probably do a roll call since we're on Zoom as well.
Leo Brown, aye.
Yeah, you roll call on Zoom and public input comes after.
Okay.
So, yeah, Tim Knight here.
Michelle Kirkby, aye.
Leo Brown, aye.
Will Horn, aye.
Okay, so Michelle, you're running out of the chair.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Okay. So let's see. The next part.
Congratulations, Madam Chair.
Thank you, thank you. The next part, we will be looking for a vice chair. Do I hear a nomination for vice chair?
I nominate Tim Knight for vice chair.
I second. Do we have anyone else that would like to make a nomination for vice chair? All in favor for Tim Knight as vice chair?
Do I have to roll call again, or do I?
We're on Zoom.
I think you do, yeah.
Okay, Tim Knight, yes.
Michelle Kirkby, yes.
Leo Brown, yes.
Will Horn, yes.
Okay.
Is Diana on Zoom?
She is on a
Yeah.
plane in the middle of the air. So no, she's not on Zoom. So financial secretary, so previously, so like traditionally that role is awarded to the newest member so they can learn about how things work. So I wanted to, before we open it up, I wanted to get your thoughts on, do you want to stay on or do you want Diana to do it? She's open either way.
I'm happy to do it, but I'm still free. If Diana wants to do it to learn, I'm open to that, but if it's like, but I'm happy to do it. So I'm not sure. Like,
Do you have a preference?
what's the other option?
It's like, do you want to do it or not?
Oh,
Like, do you want to keep doing it or do you want Diana to do it?
I think, and this is open conversation,
Yeah.
there is an option for secretaries. That's the only.
I don't wanna do that.
So then he could be.
Sorry, because Diana's not here and we didn't talk about, like,
I
just
nominate
because she has the
Will
job.
Horn.
Yeah, like, there we go. Yeah, I'm happy to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not, don't have as many crazy travel plans.
Do I hear a second for Will?
I second.
Okay. Roll call.
Tim Knight, yes.
Michelle Kirkby, yes.
Leo Brown, yes.
Will Horn, yes.
Okay, and then do I hear a nomination for recording secretary?
I nominate Leo Brown.
I second that.
Okay, roll call for Leo.
Is there any other?
Step back.
Do you hear a roll call vote for Leo Brown as recording secretary?
Tim Knight, yes.
Michelle Kirkby, yes.
Leo Brown, no.
Will Horn,
Yes.
There you go, you got three.
Yeah.
Thank you. Proceed.
Oh, yes.
Right. Are you, usually you're on Zoom?
I'm still on Zoom, it's okay. Yeah. I'll just stay there. Stop the name tag.
Easy swim.
Okay. Feeling your pen. Okay, so,
Sheet 10, right.
now that we have our new roles for the year, we will open up public input. At this time, I'd like to open public input. Members of the public are welcome to comment during the public input, either here, although no, it is here, or through Zoom. If you're on Zoom, please raise your Zoom hand. We ask that you keep your camera on when making a Zoom comment and that you follow school committee policy for public input, including speaking no more than 3 minutes and only on topics under the purview of the school committee. And whether you're here in person, please, or on Zoom, please state your name and address for the record. Okay. No, I see what she says. So Chris, I'm just gonna read your comment. She says, no public input at this time, but I would like the chance to speak before the vote on handbooks. Please acknowledge, thank you, Chris Potts, 7 Curve Street. Yes, Chris, we will allow you to speak on the handbooks before we vote. Thank you so much. Okay. Next up is the consent agenda. So for the consent agenda, we have approval of the meeting minutes from our regular meeting on June 20th, 2024 and June 27th, 2024. We have approval of our workshop minutes from June 20th, 2024, starting at 10:45 a.m. Approval of our workshop minutes from June 20th, 2024, starting at 1 p.m. Approval and retention of executive session minutes on June 20th, 2024. And I just wanted to remind everyone that the reason we have all of these minutes from the same date is that we started that day with a regular meeting where we went over school start times. We talked about the strategic plan and got an update on that, and we did some policy review. Then we moved into our workshop, but we broke that up a bit by having an executive session over lunch. So that's why there's so many minutes for that day. And then the superintendent appointment to the education collaborative and accept board of directors. Do we do that every year?
We do that every year.
Okay.
Yep.
So my first question would be, does anyone have any edits or anything they want removed from the consent agenda?
I just have a comment. It might be worthwhile just to remind us what the accept board of directors is.
Sure, yeah. So we have, we belong to 2 collaboratives in Medfield. So we belong to the Accept Collaborative, which is located in Natick. It's a collaborative that oversees special education programs and has all superintendents as board members. And then we're also a member of the Educational Collaborative in Walpole Tech. And that has a mix of school committee and superintendent as members. Same mission in terms of providing special education. Tech expands it a little more, where they have purchasing and some other items that they do with professional development. But that's something that is typically done in the beginning of the year, each year that I get appointed to the board. So I would have that you appoint as you had last year.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on the consent agenda? Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 The motion passes unanimously. So next, we're moving on to new business. Double check. Okay, moving on to new business. Okay. And Jeff, you're gonna walk us through the school staffing update?
Sure. So in your materials, you have the school staffing update for Unit A and Unit B. Unit A, just a refresher, is our teaching staff under that contract. Unit B would be our paraprofessionals. So you can see that we typically have, it's a similar number that we've had in years past in terms of new hires. And you'll notice on that last column on the right is the reason for hire. You see a lot of leave of absence this year, and typically that is either health or maternity related or paternity related. So we have had a slew of teachers in the last couple of years that of having children, and also paternity leave where dads are taking time off as well. So you'll see that for the most part, those are all no surprises there. There's a couple of resignations that were folks that, for instance, one person that had retired from the district, came back, worked a couple of years, and she's moving to Colorado, so obviously had to resign. So pretty straightforward. I'm happy to say that we're, even though it doesn't reflect it on the Unit B, we have hired everyone. There's no TBD in Unit B anymore. As of 5 o'clock today, we've filled that all up, and I signed all the appointment letters. So that's great. Last year, and many districts are still trying to, find Unit B people and trying to hire, and our principals have done a great job making sure that their buildings are fully staffed for this year. So happy to answer any questions on it, but it's, fairly straightforward and similar to what we've had in years past.
Any questions? I think by filling all the roles, we answered all the questions.
Congrats on
Had
filling all the
questions on
roles.
empty roles. I think-
Principals have really worked hard the last 2 weeks to make sure that the roles are all filled. And we've talked about this before. Medfield's a desirable place to come. And when you see even the Unit A, almost all of those people are from other districts. They're leaving other districts to come here. So it's not cheap doing that, because, if you get someone right out of college, they're a lot cheaper, but we want, you know, the principals and I want to hire the best people. So typically, we get folks that are, you know, in multiple steps and masters, et cetera, from other districts that want to come here. So they did a great job. I've met almost every single one of the Unit A people. We had the new teacher orientation yesterday and today. It's gone very, very well. So people were excited, looking forward to the start of the school year.
So is the wellness teacher at the high school the only empty role right now?
Yeah, that is, they're actually hiring that. They did an interview today. I'm pretty sure they have someone, but they just haven't done the official letter yet, but everything else is in good shape.
Great. You guys have anything else on the staffing update?
No, I mean, my only thing, just general tone, like the market, you know, a few years ago.
Market's tough.
Yeah.
It's still really tough. You know, you have, just to give you an example, we posted an elementary teaching position, we'd get 300 to 400 applications for it. You might get 100, 150 now for that particular position. Some of the ones that are really difficult, high school physics are really hard. You know, it's an area that you don't have a lot of people have that certification. So that's been tough. But we found people, so that's good. I think the world languages are really tough too, especially Mandarin's a really tough one to get people. We struggled with that a few years ago, but we've gotten some really good staff the last few years that have stayed with us, so that's been really positive. But yeah, the market's still like I've never seen before, you know. Ever
Yeah,
since
these,
COVID.
partial FTEs, I mean, are these, and if we'd answered this in the past, I'm just curious, like do we have a 0.6 position for, art? And is there another 0.4 that connects with, or is it just a 0.6 position?
For the first one, the art one, sub art or.
Oh, I was looking at the art one, sorry, Nicole.
0.4.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically, sometimes it's a 0.4 in one building and a 0.6 in
That
another.
was one, right?
You know, so it's a one-time FT, but there are others that aren't. Like we have someone, that's gonna be doing AP physics, that's just gonna be a 0.2, just coming to do AP physics and that's it. Because that's her expertise and that's kind of where she wants to work for one class a year,
That's good.
you know, so it all depends.
It's similar with the 0.8 math.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else on the staffing? Good, okay. All right, so next we have the 2024-2025 student handbook with a subsection of mobile phone use. So before we start talking directly about the handbooks, I wanted to give Jeff and Leo an opportunity. So I know we had some really, you know, long conversations, I guess, towards the end of the year around digital strategy and mobile phone use. And I know you guys have done some work over the summer. So you want to walk us through kind of some of the stuff that's happened?
Sure, I mean, I think as a district, I think we all recognize that, we have concerns around mobile phone use. I mean, I think my graduation speech was just focused on that, right? We know that, we find our kids and even adults everywhere using mobile phones too much. So, it's been something on our radar for the last couple of years. And, what we did this summer, Tim, Leo and I, met with the secondary leadership team and kind of went over, you know, what the reality is on the ground in terms of what we're doing with kids and how much they're using their phones and where the concerns are and that kind of thing and how things work operationally. And I think that was a really good meeting. We went for over an hour. And it gave the opportunity for high school principal, the two assistant principals and the principal of the middle school to have conversations with Leo and Tim to kind of give their perspective on what it looks like in their school. So that was really helpful. One of the things that came out of that meeting was really taking a look at the language in the handbooks and beefing up the language, especially at the high school level, to really expand what the recommendations were and make them so that it's not just will be asked, but will be, you know, be required to take their phone and put it in a pouch in the front of the classroom, those kinds of things. Also, with the high school staff looking at it, feeling that not using earbuds in school would be something that's really important. And then through the conversation that we had at that meeting, it was obvious that when kids are signing out to go to the bathroom, they're using their phone on a QR code, if they're taking their phone with them and then using their phone in the hallways in the bathroom, and that kind of defeats the whole purpose of what we're trying to do with the pockets in the front of the classroom. So adding that to the handbook, that students are no longer allowed to bring their phones to the bathroom with them. which I thought was another good change. So they're rolling that out, they're communicating that with families and students, which we think is really important to do and really support the teachers because it's something that they wanted additional help with, after last year where we remember it was going really, really well in the fall. And then in the spring, things got a little lax and then it wasn't as positive it was in the fall. So really making sure that everyone, including the administration, is really focused on that and following through with what the expectations are on the handbook. The other thing that we talked about, which I think is really important, is to launch a task force and use that same model we've had for both school start times, DEI, and other important things, SEL in the district, that have been successful, is try to engage all the stakeholders, get some of that data that's really important, local data. We know what the national data is, but we want to get local data from parents, from students, from teachers, and get all of our stakeholders involved in that decision-making process, collect that data, and then make informed decisions versus, making decisions on assumed data, so really try to get that data, which is great. We read The Anxious Generation this summer, the leadership team, and you guys all participated in that. I think that was a real eye opener for a lot of people looking at that. One member of the leadership team said, every time I picked it up, I felt like I was an awful parent, because he had older kids and, you look at some of the recommendations that come out of there and you can do some of it, but some maybe you didn't do. So I think that's a really important piece too, to get everyone grounded in the same, baseline understanding of what we're dealing with the rewiring of kids on cell phones. And then we kind of resurrect that Medfield Talks program that we did prior to COVID, which really got the community involved in topics that were important to them and really focus on what we can do for supporting parents with mobile phones, because we have them 6.5 hours a day and the other hours they with parents. How can we support, what we're doing in school at home and vice versa? So I think that's what came out of the summer. I thought it was a pretty good step going forward. And I think basically once we launch the task force in late September, early October, and start collecting all that data, then we'll come back to the committee, whether it's an upgrade of the handbook or a recommendation for a policy. We'll get to that point, but I think it's definitely a step in the right direction and something that we need to keep working on.
Yeah, I thought the conversation went very well with the leadership. Tim and I took up the whole hour and then some.
We had a lot of questions.
Yeah, I think I could have gone on and on. And I think that the language they came back with was actually, I see the language in here that they were actually a little resistant to actually to go with, but they must have gotten feedback from teachers. So, I'm excited about, not just the policy, but actually just engaging in the work. I think that's just a part of it. Everyone knows my wife's a teacher. Her strategy this year is a little more simple. The phone is caught, it's gonna go in a brown paper bag with a staple on it and we can sit on the desk. So that they're going after it if they're open the bag. So
I mean, it's everywhere, right? It's a problem everywhere. So I think if we can address it in the thoughtful way we've done other issues and other initiatives in the district, then we can really make some change that will be worthwhile.
And I think it's the larger picture, not just the policy. I think this goes to, the focus on it. Even Jeff and I, when we spoke yesterday, we had some strategies that we were taking for ourselves, like turning off a bunch of notifications we don't need anymore.
I did today.
Yeah. So and I've actively been doing it even with email and whatnot, just removing digital clutter from the home. So way to do it.
Did the principals and assistant principals, what kind of things did they share around what they view as like a challenge or not a challenge?
Yeah, the enforcement is the largest challenge.
Okay.
And as you all know, I'm also an administrator in another district,
Yeah.
and that's the same. It came up in conversation today during our retreat. Enforcement through staff, because of it's a team, and then we echoed right from, it's going to really be a team effort to some peer accountability, I think was the word I was hearing from some of the leaders there. So.
And consistency, right?
Yeah.
So it's so important that if your first 3 periods are really consistent about it, and then if one person in another period does, is more lax, then that kind of throws everything all off, right? So just being consistent as a staff and making sure that we know why we're doing it. We're doing it because we know it's good for kids, but we also know it's good for them to focus more on what's happening in the classroom versus what's happening on their phone.
And I think Tim and I left it, well, Tim wasn't there, but when I left it with them, I just said, I think I think it's an opportunity for them to give us language that they can use,
Mhm.
right? So use that as an opportunity to help them in some way. So, and I think that's what they came back with, so.
And then, oh, sorry, go ahead, Tim.
No, I think comment I had is, I thought Jeff, you know, the graduation was a nice way to, I don't know whether that was by design, but I've seen many of your graduation speeches. And that was just to say, look, this is a priority, you know, and I don't know if that was the intent, but I think we saw it in our workshop. It's clearly a priority for us. We did take time, you know, we didn't just have a meet. It's not that often that we asked to meet with your leadership. We had a couple meetings with Jeff. One comment I had is, you know, a knee-jerk reaction is, okay, let's radically shift the policy and see how we do, versus a strategic solution. And I think, you know, strategic solution doesn't mean years and years, but a task force, I think, is appropriate. Right, it is absolutely appropriate. So we have kind of modeled out what that would look like. And, you know, it's interesting to see because it's in the news all the time. This school's, here's the band, but every band looks a little different.
Yeah.
Right. I think we all learned that, like, whatever we come up with, we want to lead with your team. We want to, you know, give an indicator where we want to go.
Right.
But if they're not behind it,
Right.
it's not going to work.
And that was the real focus on the conversation, was to not throw something at them to go do, but work with them. So that was the real outcome part of it, so.
Yeah, like the other comment, I'm just looking at my notes, is what problem are we trying to solve? And I think that might be part of what task force as well, is we one of the things we talked about was common terminology. Is it cell phones? Is it, you know, your watch? Is it your earphones? Or is it actually digital implying social media and or AI? Personally, I'm more.
Well, I think the AI,
fine.
that's gonna come at you and no matter what the device is.
Right.
But I think we're gonna find that the earbud thing, having the teeth around that, and the handbook is probably gonna be the most impactful. With the argument, I have one in, I can still hear you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, what, Jeff, how are you thinking about the makeup of the task force?
So, I kind of sketched it out a little bit, making sure that we have, parents at all levels on there, teachers from all levels, students on there, school committee members, very similar to what we did with school start time. And in making sure that I think the important thing is to kind of define what the issue is and what we're trying to work on, but then gathering that data from all the stakeholders and taking a look at it. I think that's the important thing. I think I remember said it in June, if we're doing policy in a vacuum, that sometimes becomes a problem. So if we can get as much information as we can, and it's not gonna be, you know, everyone's on board, right? We know that. But at least to give us a better sense of where everyone is with this, because it will inconvenience people, not just the kids. It'll inconvenience parents at some level because they're used to, you know, instant communication with their kids, if that's the case, and those type of things. So just trying to get that information and use that to make informed decisions on what we go forward with.
My questions about the policy are just, so the word like submit is in there now, and do they have, or do they already have like shoe lockers? Is that where they're gonna be going?
So it's the same thing as last year, yeah. So they would just go right in.
But now
take
it's-
them in.
everyone's on the same page, and then with the bathroom thing, you mentioned the QR code, are they just gonna go back to like old school sign out or?
Yeah, they said they were gonna deal with that, so it wouldn't have to be a QR code. So I'm assuming that's what they're doing, yeah.
Something to do with a Chromebook, I think they're gonna use.
Yeah, they're gonna try to do it
You
through a
don't need a
Chromebook.
QR code to do that.
Okay.
They felt that a Chromebook was just as efficient or accurate as just putting it in versus just scanning it. The kids would go over and put their name in a Chromebook and that.
Sure.
So.
I feel like this topic is like near and dear to your heart. I wonder if you have other thoughts on like what you've heard of what they've done this summer, or directions or things you have concerns about, or places you want to go with this kind of.
I think this language is pretty strong and good, and Jeff, you just mentioned like on the task force, like maybe I do not understand how everyone could not be on the same page with this.
No,
You know what I mean? I know some people out there aren't, and call me if you want to talk about it, but do some research on this. Again, working in a high school for 10 or 12 years, looking at your own kids in your own classroom, it is a huge problem that leads to, phones are a huge problem that lead to serious problems for this generation. So I think this language is great. I just ask my questions because I just want to make sure the teachers on the ground can execute the plan.
Yeah.
So if there's a shoe locker, every class, you drop it, that's it, no discussion, because it's also, you know, it's personal, like, I know what the rules are in school. Sometimes kids, when they're upset, start pushing back, and this is very clear to me.
Right.
You have to submit it, that's it. Like, I know what you're, like, there's just, you know, whatever. We've been in heated conversations with kids about this in the moment, and it's hard to be a teacher when you wanna go teach 23 other kids. But I think if we are leaders with 100% of the classes you walk into, you put your phone in there. That's just gonna be the culture. And I think in like 4 or 5 years, like this is gonna be, you know, for our rising everything, maybe not the ninth graders, but 10th, 11th, it's a change, and it will, you know, there'll be some fight from the kids. Again, I don't know how any parent could push back, but feel free to reach out if you wanna talk about that. Yeah, I think it's awesome. I mean, you know, where I am personally, you know, I wish we could ban them from the schools altogether, but from the classroom's a great first step. You will still walk through a cafeteria and you'll see a table of 10 kids or whatever with their heads down on their phone, which stinks, but you know, we can control,
Yeah, I
right?
would
Like,
say-
this is
We'll
step
see- we'll
one.
See about that too. I'm actually gonna visit the high school. next time
You
this
should,
year.
because they're
Yeah.
really not on their phones at
Well,
once.
that's what
Great.
that's what
Pretty
they
good,
said,
yeah.
you know, in the meeting, and I was like, yeah, I mean, if that's the case, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the case, and it could be a school.
Always a different story, always,
Sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But at lunchtime, which is what we want, like, for instance, I've seen other, phone policies that have come out recently this week in surrounding towns, is one in particular I'm thinking of, that, they allow, the only time the kids can use their phone is at lunch, which to me is counterintuitive to what we want kids to interact at lunchtime and that kind of thing. It also takes the phone after, you know, 1 or 2, and it stays in the office for 5 days and all that. And I'm thinking the management and operation of that, if, you know, I'm a mother, I'm a dad or mom, and I'm paying for that cell phone and someone takes it away for a week or longer, I don't know how I feel about that. You know, it's just different. You know, it's different. So
That's
that,
not gonna go.
I don't think so either. I don't know. I don't know how that's gonna work, but I think these are the things that we talk about in the task force before you have a policy that may not work in the community, so.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the second part of it with like the consequences are kind of wide ranging from start, and I think that's where we need to be now.
Mhm.
I think we floated stuff at the workshop, you know, you can always float like consequence, first time you get caught is this, second
Right.
time is this, but
Right.
to your point, I think that is something we should do more with the team. And again, what we're really trying to do is just build the habit.
Mhm.
When I walk into my class at Medfield High School, I'm dropping my phone off, and I'm gonna go learn, and that's it. So I think this is a great step, but yeah, cell phones are the devil to society right now. And for us too, I mean, adults too,
Sure.
it's like the whole way, but the kids with their brains changing and everything, the research is all there that we need to get them, limit their hours on. So cell phones, but when I say that, I am lumping a lot of times social media
Right.
into that.
It should be, that's what I say, like, that's, I think, part of this task,
Sure.
digital.
Yeah,
Like, we have to come up with the terms.
So I think looking at, you know, one thing that we still need to look at closely as we start school is what it looks like at the middle school prior to that bell ringing and kids going to class. Because I think it's pretty clear to both parents and to kids and to folks at the middle school is that when the bus drops off and the kids are hanging out in the gym before they go to class, the phones are out.
Mhm.
Right, so they're in the bag once they leave that gym, but there is a time for lots of kids in the morning where their phone is out before they get into class. So we have to have a conversation around that, I think, with the task force too, and I know that Nat's keeping an eye on that as well. I think
And
that's
you just
something we have.
specify school day, so, you know, in my head, that would be when the bell rings and
Right.
bell, right? So,
but control, we can control. I think it's a great step.
Door to door is another way you look at it, or bus to bus, you know, all those kinds of things. Maybe that's what we have to figure out, but to me, this is a really good step in the classroom at the high school where the concern was, I think, the most, for kids. And then, you know, as part of that task force, really go through and decide what it looks like at each level, because now as you know, we're now dealing with this kind of these kind of issues at Dale Street too, so.
Sure.
although we haven't voted on these yet. We have to vote on them tonight. I think that's fine. I was gonna say, there's some of the language, the language, one calls them cell phone, one calls them electronic devices, you know.
Right.
Yeah, but like I said, I think we get the essence. It's a handbook, it's adjustable if needed.
But that's the thing in the handbook, if you want to amend that, you can always amend that exact
Exactly.
meeting whenever you want to do that, which gives you much more flexibility than if we're just writing a policy right now, so.
That was just the identification of phone location is, the middle school one.
And I have I could call it a random thought, but as you think about the task force, last year for the start times, you had a leader.
Mhm.
It was of your task force, which I think is great. I would like to think you have a leader representing upper school and elementary.
Mhm.
Because I think elementary, especially like with the orientation you had today at Memorial, that's where you can also really train of the teachers there,
Mhm.
make a difference as we start thinking about it.
Absolutely.
It was interesting, like Robert inherits whatever's going on in the middle school.
Right.
Like they, so it's like, to me, that isn't, it's just we tend to immediately go to the high school and the middle school. But, if we can drive the habits and.
And what I've heard is, it's pretty, the rules are pretty locked down at Dale, but what I did hear from a parent is that it's, now quite a thing at Wheelock, right? The phone situation now, thing. So,
The watches are an issue, or a thing at Wheelock.
are they?
Yeah, the watches that, I believe they have cellular, I'm not sure, but, so not, maybe not a phone, but a watch that can be communicated with. We had
Yeah.
probably 3 or 4 last year that Holly met with the parents on.
I think it's more watches, right? Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Good.
So they didn't, he left watches unstated at this point in their Wheelock changes. They did a clarification.
Right,
The Wheelock, or, the middle school?
the elementary one.
I'm sorry, yeah, the,
Middle
no,
school.
no, middle school.
Yeah, the middle school, it was absent. They seem to think it wasn't an issue, so I think that's. Because I think the phone and the earbuds are gonna be the 2 key factors, but again, that's why it's a handbook and they have some research going on and. So,
Yeah,
I think the important thing is we're giving the staff the policy backing to do what they need to do, and I think that's the important part.
yeah, I agree. Like, I don't wanna say, hey, why don't they do this? They can ask the question, but that's why I think we all made it, or that was my recommendation. You and I had a couple of conversations. We can dive into policy.
Right.
We can, there's some low hanging fruit that we're gonna take care of right now. And if there's things that fall through the cracks near term, we're on it. Right, that would change.
You just found out about the policy.
I bet they did.
Yeah.
Easily fix it, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so this will remain a topic on upcoming
Absolutely.
agendas. So I feel like we're in a good spot right now, knowing that we're gonna continue to have these discussions around mobile cell phones or, phones and earbuds and
Watches.
all of the things, yes. So, if we're feeling good about this language, we can then start talking about the other language and amendments that were made to the handbooks.
Sure.
Do people have any, additional thoughts, comments, or questions on anything in the handbooks in regards to the handbooks as a whole, or any changes?
Our senior materials, we put a separate document aside from the handbook that had the changes. One by the high school, one by the middle school, and then the elementary had one together as well. So I thought it made more sense to do that this year versus having you look through and redline and all that other stuff. It made sense just to kind of capture what the changes were and make it a lot easier for you.
I appreciated that. I thought that was. much
Yeah, me too.
forward.
And the only question I had, there was some presentations around, National Honor Society eligibility and GPA. And is this reflecting some of that research that was done? Because I believe we had a pretty long presentation and conversation about that. I'm not sure if we revisited it, but is this reflection of that?
It does. So updated National Honor Society eligibility requirements to juniors and seniors and 3.6 weighted GPA.
Yeah,
That was what came out of that.
okay, and that was part of that conversation, yeah.
So, okay, and that, you're saying that is consistent with what we,
That was what was presented, yeah.
Yeah, because it was it's causing some conflict.
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
And like, From that one, I do understand why you wanna, it maybe elevate, but I think people to apply is a great thing.
My question was around the first one where it just says deleted any student not achieving the required number of credits will be retained in the appropriate grade.
Where are you?
Oh, sorry,
It's in high school.
Academic.
it's right above,
okay.
yeah, academic information. It's, you just delete, we just delete this sentence. Any student not achieving the required number of credits will be, retained in the, like, is that still gonna happen? We just don't want it in the set, like, that one confused
So I
me a little
think that
bit.
was kind of old language.
Yeah.
And we try to do, have kids the opportunity to make up some of the credits and do what we can so that they can do that and not be retained back. So I think that was, our focus now is to make sure that we can, do credit recovery for those kids instead of just saying you didn't make it and you're staying back kind of thing. So we
And
do
that'd be
that
like over the summer or?
sometimes, yeah. Yeah,
Extra
sometimes over the
courses,
summer.
after hours.
We had a couple this year that some over the summer.
Yeah, but so like at that time, if the kid doesn't do the credit recovery, are they still retained in the same grade? It was just like harsh line. I just don't understand. Yeah, sorry, that still doesn't totally make sense to me. So like, so there's credit recovery, sure, but like,
Yeah.
if I didn't achieve the number of credits, I'm in this grade until I do credit recovery.
Or another plan, depending. Like, sometimes if a child is injured and misses a lot of days and we do the home hospital tutoring and all that, so it's really case specific, but this
Yeah,
was kind of black and white, and that's why the committee looked at this, wanted to make sure that we took that out of there, because we do offer other options other than just saying you're stuck in that grade.
sure, but it is still possible for that to happen if it was not like you said, it's case by case. So if a
Yeah.
kid is.
I think
So
it's
what
still
I'm
possible.
getting at, well, sorry, what'd you say?
I think it's still possible,
Okay.
but I think what we try to do is exhaust every avenue so that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I understand that, but I guess I'd just say also, like, I think there are times we scoot kids along when it would be better for their life if they like
Yeah,
had
we
a
don't-
consequence.
no,
That's
they-
the only reason I.
Yeah, they need
push them
to
along.
do something in the credit recovery or a plan. We don't just push them off.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Anything else on any of the handbooks?
Nothing else jumped out at me at the time.
Chris, are you still there? Do you wanna, ask your questions or comments on the handbooks? Owen, are you able to bring her over?
I will just add too that, while we're waiting, we did add that language that you folks wanted for the collision sports, contact collision sport. So by listing there's the sports and putting club cheerleading in there, that was something that we had that conversation about that night when we were going through that policy. So we did add that to the handbook.
Chris, are you there?
I'm here, yeah, it's telling me that the host won't let me to start my video, which is fine, doesn't matter to me.
I'm okay with it.
I'm good. We can hear
Yeah, we
good,
can hear.
Chris.
Great. I just wanted to, the whole cell phone discussion is really, really awesome, and I'm right behind you guys and where you are. I'm with my 27-year-old son. I've been with him the week, and we had a great discussion about this. Some of you may know, he actually works for an executive function coaching firm, and he has for the last 7 years. The CEO was somebody actually that we invited in to speak to students here in Medfield a while back. And I was asking him for his opinion about the whole cell phone situation. And it was kind of funny to hear him say, "Oh my God, Mom," he's like, "they should never have cell phones at middle school ever." Like, it's really awful for kids with executive function. And that's a really good thing that that's not allowed in middle school. He also agreed that it's an issue at high school, in the high school. He's just been seeing a lot with the families that they're working with executive function, how difficult it is for these kids to be focused. For anyone who has ADHD or, focusing issues. The only thing that he did say was that, in his experience, that, instead of 100% of the classes, there are going to be some instances like in art, like in music, where the phone does become a tool for the class. There is an academic use for it. So just trying to explore when those, those times when they're used is a good thing. But it was pretty interesting to get his feedback on this, and I just thought it was pretty timely because we just had a conversation about it today, and I just wanted to pass it along, what he was saying based on his experience. You may want to consider having somebody that has executive function, expertise on the task force, because I just think it's a really, if these kids are already struggling with focus, this phone's going to only make it worse. So I just thought I'd pass that on.
Great, yeah, thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Chris.
I appreciate that. That's the dream, that when our kids go off to college or work from Medfield, that they're just in a different spot, right? And they hopefully have built the right habits now, and then they're like, oh, I'm so thankful Medfield did that, because I can think.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
The only other thing that I would just throw out there, is based on the research on the concussion. I would like to just throw it out there to add softball to it, only because based on my research, I see that softball and field hockey have the same level of concussion incidents, based on the research, and girls sports tend to have higher incident of concussions in general. So I just throw it out there for consideration to, look at some of the more recent research and just see that. And it has nothing to do with my daughter having played softball. She was always fine, and we never saw any accidents. But I am looking at the research, and that just kind of jumped out at me that girls softball was something to maybe consider to add to the list of sports. And I think it's really great that it's in the handbook. So thank you for putting that in there.
yeah, thank you. We'll look into that.
Thanks. That's it.
Thank you. Oh, and thank you. Okay, so does anyone else have any comments on the handbook, or are we ready to vote? Okay,
Okay.
so, and do we vote on them all together, or do I have to vote on each one individually?
You can do either way.
Okay,
Yeah, because they're on the agenda as student handbook approval, so you could do either way. Whatever you like.
okay, so do I hear a motion to approve the 2024-2025 student handbooks as they are submitted with their updates from the principals?
So moved.
So moved, Leo.
I second.
Second,
Sorry.
Tim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. Okay, great, thanks, guys. Oh, yes, sure. Roll call vote, Michelle Kirkby, yes.
Tim Knight, yes.
Leo Brem, yes.
Will Horn, yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Okay, on to, old business. We are going to, Jeff, you're gonna give us an update on athletic fees?
So, that was just kind of a placeholder we wanted to put on the agenda because I think you folks discussed, you want to vote on that in September. No other updates in terms of the numbers, but, what was presented to you in June, is still the same as other districts, what they're charging, et cetera. And then the fact that we're still paying a lot more money for hockey than anything else. So, I think that Eric had shared that night that a sheet of ice has gone up, I think, $200 per hour over the last, 5 or 6 years. So that's the bulk of our cost for hockey is the sheets of ice. And we do several a week, and we have sub-varsity that does that as well. So I think that from my conversation with Eric, he still supports an increase for hockey.
Okay, and I haven't heard from any parent about, this being an issue. Has anyone else heard anything about this? So I guess my thought right now is we'll have this on the agenda for our next meeting, and we'll plan on voting on increasing athletic fees for hockey.
Okay.
Right?
I'll let Eric know.
Okay. And if anything comes up in the meantime, obviously just let myself or Jeff know. Okay, we're on to the Medfield School Building Committee update. So we met over Zoom on August 7th to go over the survey results. The survey result presentation that was given to the SVT is in our meeting packet. Some of the big takeaways are that a vast majority of the town is in favor of a school building project, so that's great. There does seem to be a favor for Dale Street site as a location. The split between a new build versus an ad reno was on the closer side, so the SVC will be doing more work in regards to what that looks like, new build versus an ad reno at the Dale Street site. Yeah, I don't have anything additional on the survey results, Leo, do you?
Not that was stood out or anything.
Yeah. I would say go through the presentation and then, you know, kind of, I think people are gonna read it. It's with a personal, you know, there's a lot of like, there's a very personal vote, and so I think people will read the stuff differently, but I think those are some of the bigger takeaways that, can help us all move forward. So the SBC meets on the first Wednesday of every month. Our next meeting is on Wednesday, September 4th. We will be having a booth at Medfield Day, and we'll be talking more about that on September 4th, and we will likely be voting on a site at our October meeting. So again, if anyone reaches out to any of you guys about, the survey results or has questions or comments or feedback, we are leaving this out there for people to review and get back to us before we vote to make sure we are getting as much information from the community as we can before we take that step.
So we did a great job on this.
They really
They
did.
did a really good job.
Yeah.
So thank them for that.
So,
And their videos.
yes. Any questions about the SBC or the Dale Street School project? Okay. So next we have, community engagement and communication. So I think we talked about in the June meeting, we did our assignments for how we're gonna map ourselves to the PTOs and orgs for the upcoming school year. We had discussed attending pin nights in lieu of, you know, sunsetting office hours, but putting this in place of being a face for the public. So, Jeff, thank you. He printed this out for us so we could kind of all see what this looked like. And I guess I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts and like, what's the best way to have this work? Does it make sense to just, you know, have each member reach out to their PTO counterpart and talk to them on how this is gonna work? I feel like the elementary schools are pretty straightforward. They're one night and, you know, an individual will be there from 5 to 7, but Blake is a little bit, you know, Blake meets per grade, so there's 3 different nights for Blake, and then the high school kind of does an open house, which is a little bit different as well, so.
They're gonna be at 2 of the Blake ones anyway.
So. So you'll just be there for 6th and 8th grade.
And I'll go to 7th, why not?
Okay, Will's the middle school rep for the PTO though.
So, sorry, Will.
You go if you want.
You will both be there.
Yeah, I'll be there for some of it.
I think, I was just, when I sent up, I think for Wheelock, which is where I was staying at the state.
Yeah.
I have a traveling during that open house on the 18th.
Okay,
So I could do a Blake, I think I could, the first 2 weeks in September is a little tough for me.
okay,
Yeah, if it helps at all with Blake, but if we, I think it's worthwhile. You know, to have coverage, part of that is also staying close, but
Yeah.
that would not be.
And I don't mind going to Memorial either, but, yeah, I'm not sure what Diane was looking to do either.
yes, right. Are Dale and Memorial the same night? Yeah.
Yeah, they're both the 11th.
I don't think that is.
No, wait.
Yeah. No, but,
So the 17th is gonna be a bad night for me anyway at 6. So Will, if you're gonna be there. 18th I can do.
18th you can, yeah, 9/11, bad, 9/11 and 12/10.
9/11 I can do.
Now is the 18th.
Dale's, I have the 19th.
What's Wheelock?
Oh, we left the, oh wait, yeah, the 19th, yeah.
Yeah, Dale's the 19th.
Okay.
Dale's the 19th and, we lost. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we lost the 18th.
Yeah.
The only one I have a conflict with is the 6th grade one.
Who's the 17th?
17th. Others.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 17, 18 is, that's when I'm on. Let me make sure that they're right. Yeah, it's Toronto and then Boston, but Boston's in the game.
And
So
would
what do we-
it be online to talk, you know, to go there and deliver a quick message too? Is that something, or to show availability and presence?
Well, I think the structure is different where there's not, you know, speaking to everyone.
Yeah,
It's
they're
not-
gonna have like a table. kind of,
Table.
right?
Table, yeah.
CPAC does, and-
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, what the PTO is like.
So we can figure that out, because it sounds like the 7th, I'm tougher on Mondays and Tuesday, but all the Wednesday, Thursday stuff I can do, so it's like Seems like that,
Okay, maybe I can put something together and send it out and we can just try to figure out people's availability.
yeah, even if it's not our school, we might have to shuffle a little bit there, but just a table to say hi and
Yeah,
show
let's
that
think of
we're
that.
in the mix.
We do a
Right.
calendar invite maybe, and then reply to who can do who.
Yeah. So then we had also talked about in the June workshop, of bringing back Medfield Talks and having this table be something where we can introduce where we're at with that. So where are we at with Medfield Talks? And I'm asking that just because some of these are coming up really quickly, right? So
Right.
we're still in the
Yeah.
talking stage, we don't have anything yet, like, you know, what can we play around with here to kind of, I guess, even get that engagement from people walking by versus just a hi, right? Like.
I mean,
we're
I think
bringing
if
this up,
we're,
what
if we
topics
just,
you want.
look for an email that talks about Medfield Talks, or that announces Medfield Talks, that kind of thing, just to let them know, what is it? What is it, what we typically do, what topics we talk about, who's it for, that kind of thing.
Okay,
Because it's, we haven't had that initial meeting with all the organizations yet.
okay.
It was kind of tough to do that on the summertime, so to get everybody on the same page, same time.
Okay, so what we would be doing then is having our table, having, the saying hi piece, seeing if people have questions, that kind of thing, but then also we can be plugging this as another initiative we're gonna be doing this year.
Mhm.
And then we can just share some background info on what it is.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll put something together that we're gonna be able to kind of all speak to about this.
It's a good idea.
Okay, does that sound
Sense.
okay?
Yeah, I think having a little meet is fine, but also I think being there is nice.
Oh,
But yeah,
yeah,
we'll come
100%,
up with
I think that is
something
lovely.
with a little more.
Right.
So yeah, I
Sounds
think
good.
having something, if people do stop by, that you
Yeah.
can tell them about is also helpful.
Yeah.
So,
I think that makes
Do you think
sense.
it would confuse people if you had SBC information? Or-
yeah, I can decide on that. Yeah,
I think maybe
Yeah,
a brochure awareness, I mean, any kind of brochures that, for things that align with what our initiatives are or our strategic plan.
Like a one pager or something?
well, the SBC is gonna be putting together a one pager probably as well, that will be given out at Medfield.
I think that's good for awareness. I think we
So
should.
if we, our next meeting, I think it's next week, or the following week, I guess.
We
if
can't
have
get too much
something-
exposure to the
Yeah.
process this year, this time around.
I was just gonna say, I don't know if we would have it for the 9/9 and 9/11, but I would say, as soon as we had it available, we can make sure whoever's at those other tables that they have that to share as well.
One of us could reach out and just let them know, show what they could have.
Yeah, yeah.
Get some AI to throw a brochure together.
I mean, at the very least, you could share the survey results, right?
That's true.
At the very least, just to kind of get it out there.
Or
Get
even
talking
the
points.
letter from, the town meeting that didn't get shared.
Yeah,
I
right,
talked a lot about the costs.
right.
All right.
So I guess we do have.
The
some-
costs are gonna be a
Right, so
factor.
maybe that would be helpful as well then. Okay. Okay, so we can iron that out a little bit, strengthen that a little bit. Okay. And then Jeff, you had mentioned that you and your leadership team were gonna meet with Chris Horan and go over some of the additional ways that communication would stay at the forefront this year for you guys. Can you share a little bit about what you did?
Sure, yeah, Chris did a great job. He met with us and his focus has really been how to leverage the website too, and how we can get that so that when we do the news and the Medfield news or the updates or whatever, that we're able to leverage and tie it back to the strategic plan so that everyone can see when you go on the website that it's not five islands. We're all working toward, similar goals, and it always comes back to the strategic plan. So he went through some really good examples of that, including images and narratives and trying to put in, good stories about what's happening in the classroom too, and have teachers do some of that if they want to, so kind of submit that to the principals and put that up there on the website. And he and I thought about how we're gonna do this, and it was a homework assignment for the principals that by our first leadership meeting on the 10th of September, that they would have 3 stories that would go out on their website on the news part, with 2 of them directly tied back to the strategic plan. And then we're gonna just keep working that this year. That's one of our focuses, to try to make it, no pun intended, strategic communication, right? So that it's not just a feel-good story, but it's something that we're doing with teaching and learning that's tied back to what our strategic plan tells us to do. So really just trying to focus much more on that, kind of like what we do on our central office newsletter, where my thing just says strategic initiative, and then when I talk about something that we're doing, right? So have that at the school level too, not just coming from central office.
Okay.
I mean, Chris is fantastic. He did a really good job, worked with us for a couple hours on Tuesday and gave us some really good ideas and some homework for us to make sure we get done.
Okay.
But he focused a lot with me this summer too on the website. So Owen's been great, helping us work with Apogee to upgrade and to refresh some of the older icons that we had there and to really put in the forefront, the most important things in the district and get that on our front page of our website. So if you look on the website now, if you haven't looked at it in a while, there's, there used to be the buttons there for strategic plan, for public records, for all that. And they just were kind of ordinary, you know, and now Owen has worked with Apogee and they've really made them so they're eye-catching and people will click on them.
Okay,
But Chris has really been focusing with us on the website and making sure that's a driver of information. So it's one place people can go, the app or the website, and get the information they need.
Okay.
So it went well.
Does anyone have anything to add to communication or community engagement? Any questions on anything Jeff shared or anything around those topics? No, good, okay. So next we have then, Tim, policy review process update, or Leo.
Yeah, so we are still working, with, MASC.
Okay,
And there's one potential wrinkle, in that, our rep who really worked, Jim Hardy, who we
Yeah.
worked with, he's retired this summer.
tired.
Yes, retired.
Right, okay.
There were a couple, Andrea's always on top of this, but, there was a couple, I think, gaps in the last, the final things we sent over to him, and, he's still responding,
Okay,
at least to text, so they're,
That's a
so he
good thing.
changes his number.
Yeah.
yeah.
So leave
So,
me alone.
and he immediately said, "Yep, made those changes." So I assume he's, you know, he retired after many, many years.
Yeah.
There may be some hanging chads. So, we're all waiting, I know, we're super excited, but I think we're just working that through. We have it approved and it, you know, it'll be this fall.
Right.
The next step is it'll be on their website, like, we're good,
And then when we get to ours.
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, we just don't have a launch date yet
Okay,
of that.
but.
I mean, there's gonna be
theoretically,
balloons outside my house. Yes,
You and Andrea both.
Will's gonna be first guy that when he shows up at the party, because he's been so excited, I can see it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, it should be moving along.
Okay, and we're anticipating that this fall.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Informational items?
I would just add that, you folks are invited to our kickoff next Monday, if
Okay.
they're available. 8:15, we typically start with breakfast in the high school here, and then, we have our program that starts around 8:45, 9 o'clock. So always a great morning, everyone, reconnecting after the summer and a lot of high energy. So if you're around, please stop by.
I think too, Tim and I had talked on a high level, September 12th. Tim and Diana are both traveling. I wanted to see if you guys are open to moving the, meeting to the 19th, which.
Is that the same as the Dale Open House?
We could host
5
that
and
day.
6.
Oh, the 19th is the tail.
Yeah,
Can move it to 7. Or you don't.
Oh,
we could,
Yeah, you could
it's
do
the
that.
wrong date.
Oh.
We could do that.
You either, yeah, you can move it at 7 or it's only one of us. Who would be there? Unless there's other people have, and they just move it at 7.
Oh, actually, if we hold it at 7 at Dale, we can get some people to stay.
Really get people to.
I know.
So would September 19th work as an option for, a meeting in place of September 12th for everybody?
That
So
seems to
pushing it
work
one
for
week
me. Yeah.
Tuesday?
Seems to work for me.
And would 7 be okay? So that would.
Sure.
Make sure we get Dale
The
covered.
open house is 6 to 6:45, so yeah,
Right.
7 will be fine.
Yeah. Okay. We have to vote on changing the meeting, we don't, right?
No, but you can if you want, but you know, it's whatever you post,
Okay,
whatever you post is fine.
and then this was the only other thing. I had.
Oh, want me to share that?
I don't know, or can we do the next meeting? I thought it was kind of fun.
Yeah, sure, I'm happy to share it. So, as you know, we have that partnership with Kids Borough, and they had a, really nice playground that was set up on the, behind the Montrose, area that they were using. So part of what they had to do is remove that, because Montrose is using that as actually classroom space this year. So the folks at Kidsborough asked us if we wanted it, they would donate it to us. So a company went last week and dismantled the whole thing. They're keeping it in storage for us. But it's really gonna add a lot to the Memorial Playground. I know that's been an area of focus that we've had for the last couple of years with fundraising, et cetera. And this is a fairly new playground with unbelievable elements that we're gonna add to Memorial. So it's kind of a nice outgrowth of that partnership. And we're just waiting now for the company to have time to, and pick a place where it's gonna go Memorial, but it's really gonna expand what we're doing at Memorial for those kids. So
Kidsborough will still get use of it there and. Or,
Kidsborough is gonna be at Blake.
that's like.
Yeah, Blake. So they're gonna have the gym there.
Okay.
Yeah, so they'll be able to use the gym. So we're gonna be, and they're really happy with that. So they're gonna have the cafeteria after school as their main spot, which is great for parents picking up and that kind of thing. And then they'll have access to the fields behind and also the gym. So, I mean, Kidsborough's very excited to be there. And they're really happy with it. And it's nice because our buses would just go right in that half circle by the cafeteria, drop the kids off, which is better than what we've had to do in the past where you have to stop on North Street and cross. So this is nice, right in the parking lot, safe, and kids go right in, so we're happy about that. So it was a nice little outgrowth of that partnership. We have an
Yeah, that's a good
additional
one.
playground over there.
Grateful that happened.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great.
Sorry, Michelle, did you say, for the 19th, did you say 7?
Yeah.
We're gonna do 7.
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure I have it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other informational items from anybody?
Mine is just that I said when I got here, we're not talking about the summer in the past yet, we still have some time, so it's not really, high level.
Not done yet.
Later on.
Yeah.
Summer's still a little time.
my wife has a whole nother week.
Yeah,
Well, they start after Labor Day.
Yeah. She doesn't go back till after Labor Day.
that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Until it's June.
That's
Right.
That's not nice.
So future agenda items, strategic plan progress update coming in September, school start times targeted for October, November. And our next meeting will be on September 19th at 7 PM. Do you want to hear any motion?
So if I may,
Yeah, go
so I would just add that we will need an executive session in September.
Okay,
So that might have to be after. If we're gonna keep that at 7, because we have collective bargaining going on with our units, with cafeteria workers, administrative assistants, and our custodial workers. So, we're in pretty good shape with a couple of those, and hopefully we'll have all 3 done for you, and we'll explain them to you in executive session. And maybe if you can vote on to approve that night. We have draft MOAs on 2 out of 3, so. And I've been keeping, I know Tim involved in that and give him updates, so,
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, just keep continuity there.
yeah.
And unit A is this year, right?
I'm sorry,
Unit A starts this year,
next year.
next year.
So unit B is this year. We have teaching assistants this year and then unit A is next year.
okay. Now do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.